Hi folks, how you doing? We had today a delicious fifth round of Tata Steel tournament in Rotterdam now in Netherlands. Wow, lots of interesting games. The one I selected for this video is particularly nice. I really like this game. In my opinion, it's very highly instructive. Positional chess at its best, and well, with some crystal clear ideas, very nice ideas to understand, easy to understand, and hopefully to learn something from the game of these world-class players. Well, exactly here we have Magnus Carlsen, the world champion with white pieces, and one of the other best players in the world, Carlsen-Aronian, who has been in the second spot of the world rankings for a long time. Now he's dropped a little, but well, he's the defending champion of Tata, so someone to consider for the tournament victories for always. And we had very instructive game today. Let's see what happened. Magnus plays 1d4, knight f6, c4 e6, knight f3, not allowing the Nimzo Indian for today, and d5, knight c3, very classical queen's gambit with bishop b4. This seems to be Aronian's weapon against the queen's Indian, the queen's gambit, sorry, lately. This goes in defense with bishop to b4, c takes, e takes, bishop g5, h6, and Carlsen takes. Well, if I'm not mistaken, they played a very similar line in Norway, Chess 2014. I think there Carlsen went back and g5 happened, but overall they played a similar opening. Magnus here goes for the queen a4 variation with a check. Of course, here no brainer, only move for black, knight c6 to defend the bishop on b4. Very quiet and slow line. Carlsen is clearly showing he doesn't want once again to win the opening battle and just goes for the middle game, which is very easy for him. e3, black castles, bishop e2, very normal and logical developing moves, bishop e6, and white castles. White is maybe slightly tiny better, but everything still can happen at this very balanced position. Black plays a6 here to stop any white piece from going to b5, and who knows, b5 at his own he could be an aggressive idea, although positionally maybe not that sound, because c7 would be a backward pawn, potentially very weak, but who knows. Rook fc1, important to take note from these apparently simple moves. Carlsen puts his f rook on c1. Now this is the only open file for white in the board, in the position, so rook on the open file, and we have c7 here, potentially weak pawn for black, a pawn which hasn't moved yet and isn't protected so far. So does this move do that much? No, but it's potentially very interesting. I mean, positionally very sound move, and white is clearly showing his intentions to play on the queen side. Bishop to d6. The bishop has done all his job here on b4 and just goes back to protect basically this c7 pawn. The queen already did his job as well, so queen goes back. Knight e7, once again we're seeing pure positional chess, improving pieces which are not useful right now where they were standing. So the knight now goes back, which is a flexible square here, this e7 one, and this pawn has the possibility to play either to c6 or c5, being aggressive here, counter-attacking white's pawn center, so why not. a3, rook fd8, centralizing the rook, and b4, making sure that black isn't playing c5 anymore, putting a grip on c5, very clearly showing his intentions to dominate this c file and play his base his place, his activity on the domination of the c file. Very interesting and very instructive, as I said. Knight to c8, not a bad move, relocating, recycling the knight. Now it could go to b6, then who knows if c4 is a square, and it also gives the e7 square to the queen if it in case it's necessary to just draw back the queen. Knight to a4, why not try to install a strong knight on c5? Once again, not too much tactics involved so far. You can see here, this is easy to understand. Positional ideas. b6, yes, you're stopping this knight from going to c5, but partially white got what he wanted, because now this c pawn is a backwards pawn. Really difficult to move this pawn now, c2, c6 or c5, so this is definitely a weakness. Yes, it is protected so far with the bishop, very firmly protected, but it's already some little thing, which is not bad, of course, for someone like so minimalistic and someone like a surgeon of chess like Magnus Carlsen. Knight goes back to b2. d3 is the square he's looking for his knight. Once again, knight to e7, knight to d3. Look at both these knights, probably wanting to go to e5, so knight g6 to stop it. a4, a5, b5. Now the c file is in the under the absolute control of Magnus Carlsen. Nobody's moving here, so this pawn is going to stay here forever probably. Rook e8. Okay, Aronian places his own rook on an open file for him, on the e file. He doesn't have a backward pawn here like the c7 one to attack, but okay, he's centralizing pieces and the position is roughly balanced, although white has this pressure on the c file, this domination of the c file. Black has this c7 pawn control for the moment. He has the bishop pair, well centralized pieces, so the position should be roughly balanced. Very interesting and very still with lots of play to go, but still roughly balanced. Rook c3, bishop to f5. This is an interesting move. I mean, you're attacking the knight and all that, giving freedom to the rook, but d5 is now not protected, as we're gonna see. It's going to be a factor later on. Rook ac1 being consistent with his strong point, c-file domination. Rook a d8. Now knight to d2. White clearly has a plan. He wants to exchange this bishop of black. Rook to d7. First of all, g3, playing against the knight on g6. Once again, very important ideas, very clear ideas, more or less, I would say, which we could use to try to learn something from these high world-class players. This knight doesn't have now very useful squares to go to. g3 is absolutely taking away from him f4 and h4, so the knight goes back to f8. And now Carlsen goes with his plan, which is a very instructive one as well. Bishop to g4. He wants to exchange this bishop, one of the most active pieces black has, and the natural defender of the d5 pawn. On the other hand, he's also depriving Aronian from the bishop pair by exchanging this bishop. Knight h7 was played. Black struggles to find a good place for his knight. His rooks aren't that well placed, and this is definitely giving Carlsen some initiative, some edge here. Some really nice edge. Bishop takes, queen takes, and look at this pawn. Now, of course, it's protected by the queen. It's not attacked right now, but potentially, theoretically, this is a weakness, as the light square bishop has departed. It has been exchanged. White still has this dominance on the c file. This is very in the Carlsen style game, slowly but surely improving his position, exchanging his not best pieces for opponent's strong pieces, and demonstrating that his positional understanding is probably unmatched right now in the world. Queen f3. He also offers the exchange of queens, and of course, if it was to be accepted, Carlsen has absolutely all the best pieces on the board. These rooks, we already know what they are doing, right? And both of these knights heading towards the very central e5 square, while black has a couple of dubious looking moves, dubious looking pieces on h7 and d7. So Aronian didn't go for it. He plays queen to e5, h4, winning some space even, queen to e7, and rook to c6. Well, Magnus is saying, I have the better pieces, I'm in no hurry, I'm going to push this position little by little. What is the best move here for black? Well, knight f6 looks very natural, re-centralizing the knight. Look at the journey this knight did have, really quite a trip. And knight to f4, simply attacking the pawn on d5. Aronian here plays g6. Of course you don't want to exchange the bishop, because once again you will be giving up the defender of a very weak pawn, which is in this case c7. g6 is played here. The engine says this is not a very good move, and the only idea I can see behind this move is probably it's stopping knight h5, which could be irritating for black sometimes. But there is some problems with this move, and it starts with h5. Well, of course, if white is to take here, knight takes and queen takes, black has a very nice way of counter-attacking here with bishop a3. This was playable actually. This was not that bad for white, neither black. This is a double attack. The queen is under attack with the rook. The bishop is attacking the rook, but white could go back to c4 and give up the exchange. This position is still nice and playable. White has a couple of healthy looking pawns here in the center, while black still has this ill looking very weak pawn on c7. White has still a position to be played. I mean, white has a pawn for the exchange. Very interesting imbalance here. But h5 is much more precise, it seems, like underlining black's problems and adding another advantage to his already nice list of little edges. The point is here that the natural looking g5 is not playable, is not possible, as knight takes, and queen takes. And now if black tries to counter attack, have counter initiative here with the same, say, bishop to a3, white doesn't even care about that rook, as he's going with the queen to f5, getting away and occupying a very important diagonal here. And now look at here who's weak. If black takes the rook, rook takes h6. That's the point of weakening the king with h6 and g6 and later g5. And now this king is feeling unsafe, to say it very mildly. This is the main point which makes g5 impossible here. So Aronian has to play something like king g7. But now after h takes, f takes, white has another nice thing in his favor. Black king is much weaker than his one. Surely we're seeing how Carlsen is slowly adding edges to his position, slowly improving his position until having this one, which is more or less already winning, technically speaking, because his position, all his pieces are dominant here. And now he just takes the pawn. Knight takes, queen takes. Once again, bishop a3 isn't working here, as there is little tactic working out for white here. Let's see if you can see why isn't bishop a3 working out. You may stop the video and try to find out the tactic here for white. It is white to move, and of course he would play queen takes d7, taking advantage of the king which is on g7, and after queen takes, rook takes, and an unfortunate ping here, winning the game. Of course, black is up a piece right now, where he's going to recover the queen here with a very absolutely dominant position. And otherwise, what can black do? Well, bishop takes g3 is the other move Aronian had here. He absolutely had to play this to try to survive. Well, not that difficult to see why f takes g3 is not playable, because queen takes d3 with a check, the queen is hanging there, white is ridiculed here. Of course, the queen is under attack, so the queen goes back to g2, protecting the king side. Bishop back, yes, black recovered the pawn, but white is underlining black's problems here, playing this nice looking knight c4 move. threatening just to take simply on c4, and even if he black takes with the c pawn, the b6 pawn then would be hanging. So very fine positional move here, once again adding to what has been a sort of a list of precious moves, slowly but surely improving the position, just underlining black's problems. And now what can black do? Well, the engine was suggesting to play queen d8 to protect this dark square c7 p6, but white has this f4 move. The knight is going to land on e5 with an absolutely dominant position, threatening g6 with both the queen and the knight, having a very strong piece. And if you're to take, well, thank you, I have 3 pawns here, a massive bunch of central pawns which are going to be very, very dangerous, basically losing it should be. So it's no surprise Aronian tries to go for kind of a desperado. He goes rook f8, trying to get active pieces to have counter chances against this white king, but this move is not good, and Magnus will not forgive here. He just goes to e5, and you don't have to try to calculate why bishop take queen takes is so bad, because we're going to see it in the game. Bishop takes, well, first we have an intermediate check on g6. Remember, there is the rook on c6. Basically, tactics usually favor the good placed pieces, the good positional players, and this is the case here. King h8, queen takes h6 check, king g8, and now we take on e5. And even if queen takes on e5, black king is absolutely much weaker here, and Carlsen is going to show it. Rook g6 check, king f7, a nice move here, slow but sure. Rook to c4, the other rook is ready to join the party, and white is absolutely sure about the position of his own king. Queen a1 was check was played here, king g2 and rook h8. That's an attack against white king, and in his dreams black is checkmating white with the queen on h1, but that's too much. Rook f4 check was played, king e8, rook e6 check, rook e7, and after these rooks were exchanged, rook e4 check, it was all she wrote. Carlsen-Aronian resigned the game. It was all over after 47 moves, as whenever black goes to the d file, simply rook d4 check, and the queen isn't defending the rook on the corner anymore, and it will be picked up with by the white queen. Otherwise you have to give up the queen for the rook here, and that's over. So this was a nice game by Magnus Carlsen. Aronian not having the best tournament of his life at all so far in Tata Steel. Looking forward to some more interesting games in this very nice tournament. Thanks for watching.